Question for John Fitch, if I may. John, this is your first fight in the World Series of Fighting, coming up off the Damian Maia. How do you feel coming into this fight with Josh Burkman?
Feeling very good, feeling rejuvenated. I feel like the weight of the world has been lifted off my shoulders going into this fight, and having the freedom to speak freely and be a martial artist again. I'm super excited about fighting for World Series, and I'm looking forward to putting on a great show and moving forward, and someday hopefully holding that World Series belt.
Next question for Mr. Burkman. Josh, much like your previous opponent, Aaron Simpson, it's no secret John Fitch is a very skilled wrestler, very good on the ground. Besides the wrestling, though, have you noticed any similarities between Fitch and Simpson, as far as the way they fight?
They definitely have similarities as far as, that they're both, great wrestlers. But I think that Fitch has transitioned his wrestling into mixed martial arts better than Aaron Simpson had. I think he transitions from his hands to his jiu-jitsu, and he's made his wrestling more effective. So, I think he creates more problems. And, I think that's the biggest difference in those two.
And final question for Mr. Cepho. Obviously, you did have one injury on the card. Holy Gracie had to pull out. Can we expect Holy Gracie to fight on a future World Series card? Can we expect Holy Gracie on a featured card despite this most recent injury, or is there a timetable for his return?
No, absolutely. It's unfortunate what happened, but we wish him fast recovery, and but we definitely look to probably put him in September.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Our next question comes from the line of Steve Juon with Wrestling Observer.
Thank you, operator. My first question is for John. You were still ranked in the top 10 of UFC welterweights when you were released by the promotion. So were you as surprised as the rest of us when you got released and wound up with World Series fighting?
Not really, because, from very early on I was fighting for my job every single fight. It was made very clear to me that they didn't really like me or want me around. That's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about being with the World Series of Fighting right now. They definitely want me around, and they're giving me a great push, and it's awesome to have people working with me instead of against me.
And that was my next question, actually, was that now that you've been fully embraced by the World Series of Fighting, how do you feel about Ray Cepho, about the World Series, and about your place in the promotion?
Ray's awesome. I got to meet and speak with him while we were first hashing out the contract over in Japan for a UFC event. And just getting to talk to him and hearing his inputs and his mindset, it's nice to have somebody with fight experience, really high-level fight experience as a president. I think a lot of these promoters lose touch because they've never been in there. They've never gotten kicked or kneed in the face before. And that changes your perspective and your view on how things are done when you've been through that.
Very understandable. And going into this fight with Josh Burkman, you fought him over 6 years ago and came out victorious in that contest. But what do you think has changed about Josh between then and now?
I think we've both changed loads since that first fight. You can't really look at a person, if he hadn't changed since that fight, then there'd be no reason for us to fight today or next week. He's changed a lot and he's developed as a martial artist. But I feel that I've made greater gains in that same time period, and I think that's what's going to lead to me winning that fight.
All right. Well, I'd like to direct the same question to Josh then. What do you think has changed about Fitch since the last time the two of you fought?
I think that his game's evolved. I think main thing is he's had so many high-level fights, and having those fights, there's no way to make up for that kind of experience. So just being a veteran and fighting the guys that he's fought, has to make you better at what you do. And, and he's stayed focused over the years, and it seems like all his skill sets have gotten a little bit better over the time.
True. Now, Fitch has already mentioned that he wants to be a title holder in World Series of Fighting, and if you beat John Fitch, do you feel like that makes you an uncrowned champion for World Series?
If I beat John Fitch, I don't necessarily feel like it makes me the uncrowned champion because, I think I gotta win that belt to have that title. I think what it does though is the winner of this fight is definitely the top welterweight in the World Series of Fighting, and I think that's what we're both trying to prove is that we're the top fighter in the welterweight division in this organization, and still one of the top fighters in the welterweight rankings.
Very good. Thank you both for your time, and I look forward to the fight next Friday.
Thanks.
Our next question comes from Mike Chiappetta with SB Nation.
Hi, guys. It's been mentioned that you have fought in the past. Can you both kind of give me your remembrances of that fight, your memories of it? Anything interesting happened leading up to the fight, or what are your memories of the fight? You can start with Josh, please.
I remember that I got beat up. I remember that. And I had some things happen in my training camp, but I don't know that they would have made, if those things didn't happen, that the result would have been much different. John Fitch was much more focused martial artist than I was at that time. And, that's why he came in and had the performance that he had. And I remember, that fight, me just learning a lot from it, even though, and just how to go about training and how to, approach part of my career. I implemented some of that and I didn't implement some of it at times, And, the other thing is that, at the end of that second round, I think there were 2 seconds left in the end of that second round. And I was just putting my hand down so that I could get a little space. So I didn't tap. I was just saving all my energy for the third round. So that's kind of what I remember about it. But, that's it.
Okay. Is John still there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I remember being fired up for that fight because, I had a interesting thing going down with, being on the Ultimate Fighter. I was scheduled to be on that show, and I was actually left at the airport. I was told at the airport not to get on the plane. And, I had to, beg to get my bags off the plane. So I was a little irritated about that, and getting the opportunity to fight somebody who was on the reality show was like an extra prize for me, and I kind of had this extra burning desire to be the guy who went out and smashed everybody I could who got to be on that show.
And another interesting thing about that is I remember I had just come off of two wins at the welterweight, and I had never fought welterweight before. So I came in against Sam Morgan, and I beat Sam Morgan in 21 seconds. And then the next fight, I fought Drew Fickett, and Drew Fickett had just beat Josh Koscheck, and he was ranked number 10 in the world. And at that time, so I think, I definitely going into that fight, I remember Joe Silva calling me up and goes, we got to fight. His name's John Fitch. And I didn't even know who, John Fitch was because I didn't really follow the sport, And so I think that, I really, because of those first 2 victories that I had at welterweight, I really I just probably overhyped myself, and didn't give John Fitch enough credit and gave myself too much credit, and I think that's another thing that helped me, further in my career is just, don't underestimate anybody, you don't know, whether you know somebody or not, it's not about their name, it's, about, how focused they are in their training and things like that. So I think that was a big mistake on my part is that, I believed my own hype a little bit too much and didn't respect John Fitch.
Gosh, have you been thinking about this rematch for a while? I mean, obviously your careers went in different directions a little while after you fought, but have you kind of had this in your mind for a while that you'd like to rematch him?
Yeah, I have. I've had there's a couple fights that I've always. I think just my losses in general. I would like to be able to have matches in those fights, just to see how much I've grown as a martial artist and how I would do now compared to then. So with the John Fitch fight, nobody's ever handled me like John Fitch did in our first fight in my career or outside of it. So, that's one reason that I wanted this fight again, and I've wanted it for quite a while. So, I think that, with that being said, it was motivation early on, but now, as I got into training camp, it was definitely less motivation because I kind of, I haven't even watched the last fight. I haven't even thought about it because, we are such different fighters, and I just think that now it's more, John Fitch is one of the top fighters in the world in our weight class, and I'm grateful that I get the opportunity to have that challenge to really see where my skill set is at, now. So it was motivation early on, and now it's, there's a different motivation for sure.
That the UFC made it clear that they didn't want you around. I mean, I know there was an incident where they cut you because of the marketing thing going on. Was there anything else specific that you can point to that sort of backs up that contention that, or your belief that they didn't want you around?
There's just other times throughout my career with contract negotiations and threats of, after agreeing to, terms of the contract, they were like, oh, well, it doesn't matter anyway. As soon as you lose, we're going to cut you and sign you back for half as much type statements. And just things said under their breath around me, things said behind my back and to the media, without ever sitting me down, like a man and talking to me. To me, that's a clear sign of not wanting somebody around or not being appreciated or not having a place at the table.
How long do you think it'll take for you to kind of divorce yourself from them fully, in the sense that, obviously for now people are still going to be asking you about them and kind of connecting with them with you? You had such a long part of your career with them. I mean, is it frustrating that, that's probably going to be the case for the foreseeable future?
No, because I'm proud of my history. I'm proud of what I've done. I'm even more proud of what I've done under the circumstances I've done in. It's not easy to be successful in a hostile work environment. Anybody who's worked in any profession who's had to go through that knows that for a fact. I feel like I have double the wins because of the circumstances that I fought against.
Okay, thanks, guys, for the time. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks.
The next question comes from the line of Heidi Fang with MMA Fight Corner.
Yes, hello. Thank you for the time. My question is for Ray. I've been doing some reading and saying that you're possibly holding a middleweight tournament that's coming up on the next card, I'm guessing. I'd like to know some more information about that, and if you could let us know if the first title is coming up for World Series of Fighting.
Yes, we have 4 guys at Danilo Villafort, Elvis Mutzpat, forgive me, I can't pronounce his last name, Jesse Taylor and David Branch. Those guys will go into a round robin kind of thing where, at the end, the 2 will probably look at fighting for a title. But the title scenario probably either towards the end of the year or early next year for sure.
For the 4th World Series of Fighting, have you determined a venue yet?
Yes, the venue, I believe it's the Central Bank Arena, I believe.
Okay.
Citizens Bank. Sorry, Citizens Bank Arena.
The Citizens Bank, okay. And also, I was curious that I looked at the fighter page to see the roster, and I see that Michelle Watterson is listed under atomweight. Can you inform us as to whether or not a women's division is in the making?
There is, discussions going back and forth, and I don't know if there's enough women talent that's available for us to have a division. That being said, we probably could do a women's super fight kind of thing. But yeah, it's definitely in the works, and when more talent becomes available, then we'll definitely look at putting a division together.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Steven Morocco with MMAJunkie.com.
Hey Ray, what's the plan for right now with the welterweight title, the belt? What's the plan for that in terms of putting it up for grabs, so to speak?
What weight division is that again?
The welterweight. I mean, we got Burkman and Fitch fighting, and obviously
yeah, absolutely. Listen, I mean, this fight itself, it's between these two fighters. I'm having a lot of respect for these guys. They're amazing fighters, and they've proven that from time and time again. And personally, I wish this was a title fight, because you couldn't ask for a better title fight than these two guys. But having only two events, it just didn't make sense for us to have titles as of yet. That being said, I truly believe that, and myself and the team have talked about it, that whoever the winner out of these two guys will definitely fight for the title.
Okay, and the deal you struck with NBC, calls for 6 events, minimum of 6 events a year. Are you guys going to be able to? Do you anticipate promoting that many events this year?
That's correct. Right now we have this show coming 14th of June, and then the next one is the 10th of August in California, and the next one after that would be September. I'm thinking 27. I could be wrong. But September will be back in Atlantic City.
Okay, where's the third event? I'm sorry, the fourth event. You said Citizens Bank Arena. I haven't Googled it yet.
I believe it's Ontario, California.
Ontario, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I think that's pretty much all I got for now. I'll get back in queue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Chris Murphy with BJPenn.com.
Hi, thank you. This question is for Ray. Tyrone Spong was originally slated to fight on the card, but he had some visa issues that came up in the beginning of May. Can we expect to see Tyrone fight in another card coming up soon?
Yes, Tyrone's confirmed to fight in August 10th.
Okay. And then the middleweight tournament will be coming up over the next few events. Is the tournament format something that you're looking to do for all the other weight classes as well, or is that something that you're just going to test out with the middleweight?
No, right, with this particular scenario, it just kind of made sense and it looked good, and we, Ali and I talked about it with the team. So, we decided to make it happen. That being said, not all the weights is gonna be a tournament scenario. I mean, again, like when you look at John Fitch and Josh Burkman, I mean, these two guys are complete warriors and amazing fighters, and 100%, these guys don't need to go into a tournament to fight for a title. I would truly believe that the winner out of these two guys will definitely fight for a title. The other kid is Marlon Moraes, who's been an amazing in his last 2 outings as well for Wizards of Fighting. Anthony Johnson is another person. So, it's going to differ all the time, and we're not really scheduled to do one thing and be stuck at it. I want things to flow, and if it works for us, we'll make it happen. If it works for our fighters, we'll make it happen. So, there's no really set schedule.
Great. Thank you. That's the only questions I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen, I've got a question. We've got Jacob and Lyle there, and I was wondering about these gentlemen have now moved up and are going to be competing on a bigger stage than originally. Just want to get the thoughts from Jacob and Lyle. what do you think about this enhanced opportunity now to shine on a WSOF card? Jacob, you want to go first, please?
Sure. Well, I'm going to treat it the same as any other fight. I was preparing as if I was going to be on the main card because in the past events I've been moved up the last day, the day of, so it's going to be no different for me.
Lyle?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. You know, Jacob and I we're gonna be exciting. Both of us, you know, we're both grapplers, but we both are gonna want to be on top, and we're both scramblers, and so I think it's gonna be one of the funnest fights on the card to watch. I truly believe that.
Okay. And this gives me a chance to segue in for the media that as I'd mentioned, the NBC Sports Network telecast starts at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. But the entire card, in its entirety, the undercard will be streamed live on several websites, this starting at 8:15 Eastern, 5:15 Pacific. Jacob, Lyle, thank you. Karen, might have some other questions for Jacob and Lyle, or John and Josh or Ray, if we can continue with the media, please.
Our next question comes from the line of Dan Plasma with Full Contact Fighter.
I had a question for Fancy Pants. Lyle, do you feel that you're at the peak of your skills right now?
I do. I feel, you know, since my Aoki fight, I've rattled off 6 wins. I've got my black belt in jiu-jitsu. I've been practicing my, I've been doing a lot of stand-up, and I was still new into the game, and I've learned a lot, and I think I'm peaking right now. I think I'm the best I've ever been.
I had a quick question for champion Ray Safo. Why is it going to take 6 months in order to get belts and rankings? Why can't we all just sit down tonight and decide who's number one based on their record and so forth?
Again, I didn't want just to come out 1-2 events and then throw belts out there. The team and I talked about it, and I think we needed a little bit more depth in the organization, but also within our fighters and our rosters. I mean, if we had done a title in our first event or second event, it just didn't feel right. You know what I mean? And so we wanted to add a little bit more depth in it. That being said, again, I go back to our main event, June 14th, John Fitch versus Josh Burkman, 2 amazing fighters, 2 great guys, and 100 billion%, the winner out of those guys, definitely deserving of a title shot.
Our next question comes from the line of Eric Cowell with U.S. Combat Sports.
Hey, this question's for John. You don't have many losses on your record. You've got 1 draw with BJ Penn. Which of those 5 losses, including that draw, would you want to avenge?
I'd like to avenge all of them, but I think the draw is the worst. Because it's just left unanswered, almost the loss is better because then you need to have, something tangible. I feel like a draw is just, I don't know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I always feel like, if it comes to a draw, is to have the guys fight one more round or something. But yeah, and the fact that, I was supposed to get a rematch and lost the rematch due to an injury, and then the fight just disappeared after that point. It just really sucks. And that's the one burning fight really that I want overall. And the next would of course be with George St. Pierre, just because he is who he is, and I feel like I gave him the best run for his belt that he's had.
And then I had a follow up. Given the state of the problems with you and the UFC, does that affect your training partners over at AKA? You got Daniel and all those guys that you train with over there.
I'm not even gonna elaborate on that because I don't want to put them into a bad position where they end up not getting, certain treatment because they are associated with me.
Okay.
I got a question for John. Speaking of your training camp, John, can you tell us a little bit about who you've been working with, how camp's gone, and what you've been focusing on?
Yeah, I've had, a lot of the usual suspects at AKA. We've got a number of guys to work with, so I've got a steady stream of different people to train with. For a little while, I had Gray Maynard was a big sparring partner of mine, helping him get ready for his fight with TJ Grant. Josh Thompson's been in and out and helping a lot. I have some younger guys like Nate Moore is a former Strikeforce fighter. Nate James is a former Strikeforce fighter. Have been helping me. A young up-and-comer guy named Thomas Dagny is a French fighter who's fantastic. He's going to make big things happen at 155.
Yeah, what is that?
What's
that? Same question for Josh.
I'm here in Utah now, full time. I don't really leave much anymore, and I train at the Pit Elevated. And we got a lot of young guys and up and coming guys. Some guys in the UFC like Court McGee and Ramsey Nigel, Steven Seiler, and Rad Martinez, and then just a good crop of up and coming guys. And those are my main training partners. And then I work I have a gym of my own in Holiday. So, I have a group of guys that I grapple with, and it's not as much the fight stuff as it is more just kind of like the martial arts stuff, and that's at XMA. And those are the main places that I have been training and getting ready for the fight.
Excellent. Quick question for Ray. I know you earlier in this conference discussed you're hoping to bring Gracie back. Dave Huckaba, is it true that he's definitely going to be on the August World Series of Fighting 4?
That is correct.
Do you know an opponent yet or have any ideas?
Not at this present time, but that will be released hopefully within a week or so.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Best wishes.
Thank you.
Your next question comes from the line of Brandon Stubbs with PunchToTheFace.com.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My first question is for Mr. Fitch. John, you're now going to be fighting for the World Series of MMA. Over the years, you've gotten a lot of criticism over somewhat of your style. Some people say it's boring. Do you think now, when you're being in front of a new crowd, do you think you have to make a new impact, maybe reinvent yourself any?
I think it's going to be very helpful to fight for once and not be in fear of losing my job. I think just that freedom itself, kind of takes the leash off the dog.
Okay. And next question is for Mr. Steffo. What was the reasoning behind the switch of having the event this time around on a Friday night opposed to the Saturday night previous two events had been on?
We had a few dates, and of course, our partner, NBC Sports Network, we set dates and then we pass it on to them, and obviously, the timing's got to be right on both sides, and this time Friday works for them and it worked for us, so it was a decision together with NBC Sports Network and the World Series of Fighting.
So that's something that, for the future events here later this summer, that you can kind of flip-flop between the Friday and the Saturday nights to come?
Yeah, that's very possible, but our next three shows, I believe, is all Saturdays.
Okay. All right, well, that's all I had. Best luck to you gentlemen on next Friday.
Thank you.
This is Jim Hunter. I have a question that I'm kind of interested in the answer. We heard from Lyle. He has a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he says his fight will be the most fun fight of the evening. Jacob, you have an extensive and very successful wrestling background. How do you see this fight going? His jiu-jitsu, your wrestling. Is it going to be the most fun fight of the evening?
Well, it's going to be the most fun fight for the guys that like wrestling or like grappling. I think it's going to go to the ground, and most of the fight's going to be on the ground. And that's the audience that we're hoping to get, and it's going to be exciting because you got John Fitch and you got Burkman. They're both going to make it on the ground, and it's going to be a ground fight too, I think.
So you feel your key is to get Lyle down on the ground, so take away his jiu-jitsu and his striking abilities.
Well, that's the way it's going to end up, I think. In my opinion, it'll be a ground fight.
Lyle, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely, both of us, he comes forward, I come forward. When you got two guys that come forward, I mean, it's going to the ground, and especially with, he likes to wrestle, he likes to clinch, he likes to get it to the ground. And so, yeah, definitely, I think it's going to be, I think it's going to the ground.
Thank you, gentlemen. Aaron, video.
Our next question comes from the line of Steven Maroka with MMAJunkie.com.
Hey, Jacob. Do you feel like a weight is off your shoulders as well, fighting for a new promoter?
Well, I don't know if I call it a weight off my shoulders. It's a new excitement, that's for sure. I did have a question for Fitch too after this question.
No, ask the question. Go ahead.
I was wondering if Fitch would want to get a fighters union started for UFC to see if we can get some kind of union started so the fighters have a little better pay, a little more leverage in their contracts.
Well, that's something I've been talking about a lot lately. I wouldn't so much go after the pay necessarily, but there are some things that I would go after right away, which would be just giving fighters a voice. Because we don't get a say in rules, we don't get a say in PRT use or marijuana use or anything that the commissions decide. Everything's left up to promoters and the commissions. The fighters need a voice somewhere. Our rights need to be represented, and our opinions need to be represented somehow.
Well, you were mentioning that there's some kind of job security you were afraid of, and I have a new idea about changing the contract, and that would ensure job security for the fighters, so they don't have to worry about getting fired after every fight, like we were.
Yeah, that would be some job safety. That would be something that would be worth talking about also.
What is your idea for what specifically would you put in a contract to ensure job security, Jacob?
Well, I would change the contract so it's not a 4-fight. You can get cut after one fight. I would make it a 2-year contract minimum, and a minimum of 2 years or 2 fights per year, and a minimum pay. I would definitely change the minimum pay to be around $15,000 per fight, so that at least you get paid $30,000 for the minimum for the fighter. And I think they can afford it. They have big pockets. Obviously, everyone knows they have big pockets because they're buying out Strikeforce. They're buying out all their competitors and trying to bully them out. And it would help the competitors like World Series to survive if the UFC actually had to focus on paying the fighters better.
How would you get everybody on the same page with a union?
That is the hardest part. Right now, I'm going to try and contract an NFL Players Association. I treat some of the NFL players. I can't say who because it's against HIPAA. But I'm going to try and get a hold of the NFLPA and see what I need to do. I have all the contact information for all the fighters in the UFC, so that's the hard part. I just need to call them all.
It sounds a lot of support from other unions also, I think, would be important, because if you have union support from the people who host the shows, the people who run the events, the people who sell concessions, if all those people are on board, then you have a lot more power.
Yep.
It sounds like this has become something of a mission for you, Jacob.
Well, yeah. I don't like when the UFC says they treat the fighters so well, and everyone's just, not everyone, but the majority of them are fighting just to make the next fight. And they don't really treat them. There's no benefits.
Did you feel like, John, when he said there was a hostile work environment, did you feel the same way?
I always felt it was a pretty, for me, it was a hostile work environment. I think the biggest thing for me was that I noticed is if you had good management, they automatically were not your friend. If your manager was doing their job, you were put in a bad corner.
Gentlemen, I appreciate this topic. It is important. It does deserve some discussion with a media forum, but I'd like to focus on the WSOF card and not necessarily any perceived rights or wrongs by any other organization. I don't think that's the forum for this now. So if we could discuss the WSOF, and we certainly would be willing and love to talk about unionization process. But as I said, not necessarily the forum to talk about any perceived or alleged grievances, if you'll agree with me on that at this point in time.
All right, Jacob. Well, how about this? Are you a happier guy now?
I'm a happy guy. I've always been a happy guy. Even though my friends and family think I'm an angry person, deep down I'm very happy.
All right, quick question for Lyle Beerbaum, if I could. Could you give us an update on Cody McKenzie, your training partner? He told me backstage after his last fight that he was going to take a 6-month break. And then he called out Josh Thompson.
Yeah, Cody's always up to something, isn't he? Yeah, I don't know if he's taking a 6-month break. I think he's taking a little bit of time off. He's up visiting family and doing things in Alaska right now, but he'll be back in a couple months. He'll be back in, and then I don't think he's going to take a full 6 months. I think he'll be back sooner than that.
First question is for Lyle, and I wanted to know, since your nickname suggests your fancy pants are part of your gimmick, I wondered who made your pants for your next fight coming up on Friday, and what are we going to expect when you come out?
Well, Mama Beerbaum always makes my pants. That's my mom. Her name's Sherry, and she's 74 years old, and she's sitting at her little sewing machine right now making me a new pair of fancy pants. So they're going to be pretty exciting, I can tell you that.
So you don't even know what they're going to look like yet? She's going to surprise you.
Pretty much. No, she orders a lot of different fabrics, and I just let her go to town. So she enjoys it.
Very cool. And do you consider Jacob your toughest opponent to date? And if not, what would you say was your best opponent so far?
Jacob's definitely a tough opponent, just a matchup-wise. He gives everybody fits, it doesn't matter who you are. He's definitely tough. Pat Healy's tough. Aoki's obviously tough, I fought a lot of good opponents, but Jacob's right up there with me for sure.
All right, and similar question for Jacob as well. How do you rate Lyle as an opponent, and what do you think will be the biggest challenge for you next Friday?
Well, I think he rates up there with the rest of the guys that I fought in the last 10 fights. There's no doubt that he's tough, and I've watched his fight against Pat Healy. I think he actually, to be honest, I thought he won that fight, but it comes down to the judges. You can't. I don't know if did he actually win it or not, but I thought he won that fight, but that's not my decision. I think it's going to be a good fight. He's a goer.
Mm-hmm. And just real quick, I remember when I saw you last in UFC that your nickname was Christmas, and we know why Lyle has the name Fancy Pants. Why do you have the nickname Christmas?
Well, I'm changing my nickname to Dr. Feelgood. My teammates, they started calling me Dr. Feelgood because I'm adjusting them. I adjust them for free, and they say you should change your nickname to Feelgood, get rid of the UFC nickname, and start a new one. So I'm going to do that.
All right. Well, we'll call you Dr. Feelgood from now on. Then, thank you.
The next question comes from the line of Michael Stetz with Bleacher Report.
Yes, question for John. John, after obviously the layoff with the UFC and going through all that, have you been more refreshed and focused? And how has your mindset been? Have you felt kind of relieved just being able to go into training and focus on Josh Burkman and nothing else?
Yeah, it's been pretty good, rejuvenating to get this opportunity to kind of get the second half of my career started in an environment where I'm supported and pushed and respected as a fighter. It feels good. I mean, you can't put a price tag on respect.
And your response to and forgive me if this was asked already because I'm late to the call, but your response to the video preview yesterday with Burkman saying what's black and blue and red all over John Fitch when I get done with it.
They're trying to start trouble.
We'll see. We'll see about that. We'll see who's black and blue.
Let me just say also that they were asking me, like, what do you got to say? You got to give us something. And I was like, I don't talk shit. I just want to No, it's just funny.
It got an audible laugh out of me.
Right, that's what I figured. I said, this is my wife's joke. So it was even funnier when I said it. So I people didn't get the delivery and the appreciation of the full joke. So just so you guys know, that's where it came from.
I thought it was funny.
Thank you. Thanks for the laugh.
One more for John, if I could. Going forward, did you feel you have a solid foundation, good home, good relationship with World Series of Fighting? I know you're 35. You're closer to the end of your career than you are at the beginning. So, do you feel this is a place, a good home for you, where you can finish out your career in MMA?
Possibly, but I feel like I got a lot of good years left in me. I've never abused any performance-enhancing drugs. I'm not on TRT or any kind of growth, or I don't even know how to use EPO. So I'm feeling good. I made it this far naturally. If I make it to 40 and everybody's still using TRT, then who knows? Maybe I'll just do it just because it means I can fight for 5 more years and feed my family.
Thanks, John. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Heidi Fang with MMA Fight Corner.
Yes, hi. I just wanted to also clarify some of the dates if Ray was still on the line.
Yes.
Okay. Earlier when you were talking through the dates on all of the upcoming fight cards, you had August 10th as World Series Fighting 4, and that's going to be in Ontario, California. And then the next card will be September 14th in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and that will be the 5th card?
That's right. That's correct.
Okay. And also, I was curious in those upcoming cards if possibly Nick Newell or Tyson Griffin will be seen since they've recently signed with the promotion, when we can anticipate their debuts.
Tyson Griffin will be 100% fighting in August, and I believe Nick Newell will be fighting on one of those 2 cards. It'll be either August or September. One or the other, Nick Newell will definitely be fighting one of those 2 shows. But Tyson, 100%, he'll be fighting in August.
Okay, great. Thank you for the time.
The next question comes from the line of Zeus King with MMA Opinion.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Hey, Ray, I'd like to say I really like the championship belt. I like the way that you guys use your original logo. The logo that you guys put on the gloves is a little bit similar to your competitors. So I was glad you went with that design. I think it's really going to help set you guys apart. And just like she was saying, the last caller, congrats on recognizing Nick Newell as a talented fighter. I met him before, talked to him several times. He's just an outstanding personality and a great fighter, and he's just a guy with a different body type. I think he's got a lot to bring. Are you guys going to keep him in the lightweight division?
Yes, I believe so. I mean, that's again, our guys can fight at whatever weight they want to fight at. Now, that's not my decision or anybody else except the fighter. That being said, Nick Newell is, that guy exemplifies the sheer strength of the human spirit. I mean, he's an inspiration not only to myself, but I'm sure to a lot of people, and hopefully he'll be an inspiration to, our audience on NBC Sports Network. When I first heard of Nick, I was like, I wasn't too sure. And when I saw the guy in action, I was like, this guy's a real deal. So that being said, we're very honored to have him, and I've actually had the opportunity to talk to him on the phone a few times, and he's a super nice guy.
Yeah, he is. Another thing, going back to Tyrone Spong, are you guys going to try to bring Deonda back to fight him at the next one?
Absolutely. I mean, those 2 were matched up originally, so I don't see why that should change in August.
Yeah, I think that's a really good fight. I think Deonda is probably a very underrated striker. I think it's going to be a good brawl, and I think that it's great to have a guy with, your kickboxing background bringing in a guy like Spong, because I mean the guy's a world champion, and now he's fighting at light heavyweight, and he's a guy that's been comfortable fighting heavyweight. So I think he's just another one of the big stars. I have just really enjoyed it all. So thank you guys for taking my call, and look forward to seeing the card.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Myra Phillips with New Zealand MMA.
Hey, kia ora, Ray. How are you this morning?
Hi, Myra. How are you? Good, thank you.
Awesome. Hey, Heidi asked you a question about those dates. You confirmed August 10th was Ontario, Canada. Ontario.
California, yes.
California, okay. There we go. So August 10th was California, September 14th Atlantic City. And do you have a date yet for that 6 show that you were talking about in Canada?
That's not confirmed yet. So, obviously that's going to come in a later date. Right now, that's not confirmed yet.
So I know you've got the 6 shows. Back in March, you were talking about being interested in Brazil. Are there any other countries you're targeting? Because I'm going to ask you about New Zealand for a possible WWE show.
Honestly, I wish we could go to New Zealand first next year. It's my hometown, and I'll always be a Kiwi, so I would love to have witches fighting down there. But that being said, we've had some people fly in from Israel. There's discussions going back and forth. We're going to go there next year, Dubai, and also Brazil.
Awesome. And then my last question is, when you do these international shows, what percentage are you looking at for local fighters versus bringing in North American fighters?
Say that again?
What percentage do you think the international shows will have for the local fighters from that country?
Probably, we're definitely, we look to have at least 10 fights on the show. So 5 or 6 of those fights, we'll definitely have the local guys on the card.
Awesome. Thanks for that.
It's funny you would ask, because there's a heavyweight that's it's actually trained by a good friend of mine, Doug Deeney, out of Auckland, New Zealand. And apparently this kid is 12-1, and I saw some footage of the guy. He likes to stand and bang. His ground's not bad either. So there's a lot of good talent coming out of New Zealand.
Yes, Doug Deeney is that. I'm thinking of there's a guy, Steve Warby, over here, which sounds like the guy you're talking about.
Right, exactly. That's exactly the same guy.
Yeah, Steve's got some knockout power. I'd be really keen to see him on that card. Hey, thanks very much for answering those, and all the best for the show, guys.
Thank you.
Our last question comes from the line of Dan Plasma with Full Contact Fighter.
Just had 2 quick questions for John Fitch. In terms of your cut from the UFC, it kind of shocked everybody. Of course, they're quick to cut people, but you had just such a fan following, a fan base. What do you think spurred on all the hostility behind the scenes?
I don't know. I really have no idea, because no one ever came to me and spoke with me or said anything to me. It's always been a hostile environment for me. I've always felt that I wasn't wanted around, and they didn't want me around, and I felt like they're actively pursuing to get rid of me whenever they could. So I'm not sure what spawned it or where it came from. And like I said, no one ever sat me down or had a conversation with me about anything.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you, sir, it seemed like Johnny Hendricks rocked you, but you weren't out. Do you think that was a quick stoppage?
I think, it's always, they say it's always best to err on the safety side.
Sure.
When it comes down to it, I signed a contract. I know what I'm getting into. I know the risk. As a fighter, I want to continue fighting. I want to be damn sure that they're sure that I'm out. I'd rather take 3 clean shots than 1.5 and the rest stop in. I felt like I could have continued. I saw the ref coming in to stop it. He tackled me, and I immediately said, "What are you doing?" It's like we had contact. So I felt like I could have kept going, but Don, honestly, I was in that fight with a pretty severe knee injury, and I don't think it really would have changed the outcome of that fight because once I was on the ground, I had nothing to do. I couldn't move. I couldn't grapple. I wasn't going to be able to scramble there. That was worst case scenario was me being on the ground.